Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Evans, and we are here tonight on September 11th, 2014, with NA Lit Chat, a place where we come to talk all about new adult books, writing them, reading them, blogging about them. We're here to talk tonight about cover trends, how you can create a good cover, some tips to work with designers, what's hot and what's not, what's going to draw the right readers to your book, and what is going to work for you when maybe it's time for a rebranding. We've got Alicia Cat Vansel in the house, who's a current and always member of our NA Lit Chat team, but she's also an amazing cover designer and graphic artist. Hey, Cat, how are you tonight?
I'm great. It is pleasantly not boiling hot in the Bay Area right now, although it will be soon. Um,
Very cool. We also have Regina Wamba here, who I can't help but say is my personal favorite cover designer because, except for a box set or two, she's the one that I have worked with. So, hey, Regina, how are
Hey,
you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We're so excited to have you guys both on the show. I know that you have, looking at both of your covers, the work that you do, it's so different that I'm so excited to get to talk to you both and ask all these questions about you both. Or ask all
Absolutely.
these questions to you both. I think because of it being September 11th, I just need to take a moment to pause and say, you know, it's a weird day to start talking about all the things that we move along with our lives every single day, but it's also important in light of the events 13 years ago and the fact that they're still going on today. I know, we have a lot of people in our community, some of whom have founded our community, who still have loved ones in the military, and they're still fighting for a lot of the same things that started on September 11th. Where were you guys when it happened?
I was in school actually. I 10th grade, I think.
Oh my God.
I
Seriously?
was. Yep. Oh,
Wow.
definitely. 10th grade. We watched it in the science lab.
And you, Kat, you were in school as well, right? Did we lose her?
Did we lose Cat?
It's very quiet.
It is very quiet.
It's very quiet. I was not in school. My husband and I had a company in New York City, and we actually were in the building adjacent to World Trade Center 11. And we were getting married a few weeks later, and we had just raised our first round of funding. So it was scary. Luckily, all our employees got out, and we weren't in the building. But the office building looked like it got bitten by a shark. Half of it was sheared off, and we didn't get back into our office for 6 weeks, but we did manage to rescue a plant of ours that is still alive today. That's always my good September 11th story.
That a positive that came out of that day.
Oh man, we had the firemen crying because we hadn't been up there in 6 weeks, and they had to literally walk up 18 flights of stairs just to get into the office. And we came out with the plant, and they were all like, "Where'd you guys get that?" It was very, you hold on
Yeah.
to little things. So,
Right. Exactly.
what about you, EJ? I think we lost Kat. So, can you chime in on me?
Yeah, I can hear you guys just fine. I don't hear Kat actually, so Kat, if you can drop out and jump back in, it'd be fine. Uh, I remember vividly. So I had taken a trip to Montana with my brother. It was a weird thing. We won this contest, and we went to this ranch in Montana of all places, and
That's
we got
cool.
back September 10th. And the next day, I was in grad school at that time in the counseling program, and I was a graduate assistant at the counseling office. And I got up that morning, to make my coffee and do all those things. And I just turned on the news, and there it was. And working in the counseling office, immediately hit me like this is going to be a huge deal, for everybody on campus. And so we immediately went in. Our counseling office stayed open 24 hours for 2 or 3 days. We had somebody there around the clock. And students, I mean, I just remember people were just streaming in. We had TV set up, and people just wanted to be around people when we did that.
That's
Yeah,
that's very
it
true.
was.
I remember everyone. And it seems like in the wake of tragedy, everyone seems to
Right.
bond.
Right. It's just nobody wanted to be alone, and I didn't either. Like nobody did. Like it was just
Nobody did.
things. Like you just wanted to be around people, and because you just couldn't process even what you were seeing and what all was happening. But
Well, it was so weird for us because I lived in Soho at the time, so we were less than we were like half a mile away, and we were just like up on our roof because it was hard to believe that it was real. Like you feel like you're seeing it on television. It's just like a movie. It's not actually happening. But we did definitely get a sense of like the community. We got to see Harrison Ford running around in a hard hat, which made it feel even more like a movie. But that was on the street, and there were tangible. There was tangible proof of everything that had happened, and we did, for the first time, go to the local bar on our street. We ventured in, and like we didn't leave for days because of that same like needing that sense of community and wanting a place to be with other people. So, well, it is important to keep moving on with the things that make us feel alive, and I know that for all of us here, one of those things, or many of those things, are books, whether it's writing them, reading them, or designing the covers for them. So I'm glad that we're all here together to celebrate that and to say thank you to all the first responders and the people who are still serving all over. So thank you for that, and we're going to move away from the harder part of the broadcast, and let's go to some good news. Can you tell me if you have any good news on YouTube, EJ? I mean on Twitter?
yeah,
Look at the YouTube link. Sorry.
right. It's hard to keep all these. I mean, I've got YouTube, Twitter, probably a Facebook open, Google Plus open, so easy to get mixed up. Yeah, Steina, just a couple things that I saw flash across. Steina said, I finished drafting my latest new adult whip the other day and got a tattoo to celebrate the first pub novel. I think that's awesome, actually.
That is awesome.
Really cool way to commemorate the first one. I've got a tattoo from my first story I've got in my mind I wouldn't mind getting. But and then Lizzie Hope Faith says, I just finished chapter 29 of my story on Wattpad. Now I only have 4 chapters to write, and then I'm done with book 1, Wattpad story, and she posted the link there. That's huge. Like 29 chapters, that's a lot of Wattpad work going down.
Well, that's pretty cool. I'm curious. We've talked a lot about Wattpad and how it can serve to give you forward momentum for a story, and
Right.
I really like hearing people using it that way.
And then Steph Pajonas just tweeted that she is 32,000 words into her latest Nokiku series book 4.
She is really getting them out. It's such a complicated story, and I admire how she's writing so much. It's not, it's 4 books in. It's a different culture. It's science fiction. There's a lot going on there.
Right.
It's awesome. And that's the good news.
That's the good news so far from Twitter.
That's the good news so far from Twitter. So, Regina, are you with us?
I am.
Awesome. So, NA kind of exploded, and you have been in the middle of it since the beginning, I would say, because you had quite a few clients who you had already been working with that very soon out of the box had big NA hits. Can you tell us what some of the first covers that you worked on for the category were, and kind of what you took away from them, and what you saw happening when NA first jumped off?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna rattle that Jessica Sorensen's Callie and Caden, The Coincidence of Callie and Caden, was probably my first big hit that kind of it definitely hit the charts, and it's obviously a worldwide phenomenon type thing. That one, gosh, what is that? 3 years now?
It's been 2. That was 2012.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. It's been 2 years. Going on 3, right? Because in late winter, early spring is when I did the photo shoot for that cover.
Right.
And that was one of my first photo shoots for the new adult genre.
Well, because I remember you had been doing covers with her, but that was the first like big new adult release.
Right. She had switched. We had done a lot of her Fallen Star series. Even around that time, we were doing her Death Collectors series. So she was writing a lot of paranormal. And so when she made that switch, it was, kind of a switch in tempo for me as well. But a welcomed one. It was fun.
Yeah. And what other covers? Like, I remember looking at some NA covers that first summer when I joined NA Lit Chat. And I remember Michelle Layton's, I think it was.
Yeah.
That one really stood out to me. God.
Down something road, right?
I have it upstairs.
Yeah, I know.
And also, that one really stood out to me that summer, and there were a couple others.
That one, I actually,
not All the Pretty Horses, but I think it's in that series.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason, I actually did not know that was an A cover based off the cover. I did not know it was contemporary romance.
Interesting.
For the longest time, I thought it was paranormal romance.
Got it. Okay, so this brings us to one of the points in the conversation, because NA really has taken off with not just contemporary romance, but really, like, sometimes we refer to it as smexy or steamy, but there's definitely a lot of sex appeal, and that is very often reflected in the covers. We have seen, all kinds of body parts that didn't used to get featured on books.
Yes, we do.
And it's totally mainstream.
Yes, it is, and it's become very, very popular. But it seems nowadays it's starting to tone down a little, especially with the new Amazon guidelines and stuff. The no nipple showing, even man nipples.
No
Really?
man nipples.
Yes, no man nipples.
About this.
I've worked directly with Amazon Publishing before, and I do have a lot of my own stock available, and a lot of them show man nipples, and so they're completely against that. It's not even allowed in their consideration for a cover.
So we better get used to abs.
Yes, you better get used to abs.
Now, how do you feel as designers? I have to admit, I mean, I love looking at, a hot cover with a splash of cover and a black and white set of abs. It's definitely, likely to draw me in. But how do you as designers make that feel or look unique? And what does an author need to consider if they want that, like, classic kind of new adult cover that tells everybody what's going on without making it look exactly like everybody else's?
For me, I'm constantly asking, the details behind the story. So even if someone does want to come at me with a very specific idea, I want black and white abs on my cover, I will take their ideas for sure, but I also, I ask many questions so that I can spin that idea to hopefully make a spider web of different ideas that I could pull to make an emotional grasp or visual for them. So it's not just an image, it's now a story through an image.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It does. You add background.
Yeah, I do. I try and make it different. The most important piece for me, I think, is the emotion that it conveys. So if there's a lot of heartbreak, maybe the couple or the people are, you know, in some sort of remorseful stance or pose or facial expression.
We're really just trying. We're talking, you know, a lot, or we see a lot of like from the chest down, and it is amazing how much emotion you can glean from that.
Oh, definitely. Even if the man has got his, you know, hands up on his chin or something.
And that's a very clever way of covering nipples.
Twitter
It's
is
a very clever way.
Twitter is totally captivated by man nipples. But now, by the way, that's dominating the whole thread now. It's all about man nipples. I said that totally dashes my career as a cover model because I'm only good from like the torso up to the neck. So.
See, and I can safely say I've never really bought a book that didn't show the face, with the exception of like a very few of them, and they showed some of the face. I'm just, as a reader, I'm not drawn in by the naked man chest.
I have to agree with you on that one.
Person.
I agree.
I like seeing the face.
So this leads into a point, and Kat, it's good to have you back, by the way, Kat.
Yeah, we lost power for like a minute or so,
Which, of course, turns into a whole ordeal. So I have a question for y'all. It came from Twitter, sort of. Michael Simcoe tweeted out, he said, you know, being in jest, like Michael's always in jest, he's like, you know, NA has sex appeal, who would have thunk it? My question to the designers is this, because you guys are talking about eyes and things like that. So if you want to convey sex appeal without being overly, I don't know, graphic's not the right word, because if you can't show man nipples, then you can't really be graphic. But if you want to show sex appeal without being overt about it, what is the best thing? Is it a smolty look or silhouettes, you know, suggestive silhouettes? Like, what do you guys find the best way to convey sex appeal without sort of beating people over the head with it?
I like the cleverly done silhouette. So there's one of the other trends in new adult covers is the white people almost kissing.
I have one of them and I love it. I defend it.
So when I was doing the cover for my book Beautiful Stranger, I loved this silhouette, but I didn't want to make it the same as all of the other books out there, so I superimposed the city over them and made it this kind of electric blue.
I have to say, Kat, that's my favorite of your book covers. I love it. I think it's a total standout.
Thank you. But it's one of those, it made sense for the story, but I also wanted it to stand out. And yeah, that's a clever way to do something different. With an old idea.
I think that's hard, because I have to say, like, Regina did the covers for Clicks and the other books that will come out in that series, and their silhouettes.
I like your covers.
Thank you, Regina.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm like speaking for her. But like, I've gotten a lot of feedback where people, you know, like, well, I guess this is kind of a funny story, but it got nominated for Best Cover and Regina for the Utopia Awards, and Regina still won with Amy Bartle's book, which is a stunning cover. Under a Different Star, right? That was the one?
Yep. Under Different Stars.
Wait,
Under Different Stars. It's a sci-fi alien book. It's amazing if you haven't read it.
It is amazing.
Let me see if it's on my list. I have a pin board that's literally just beautiful covers that I
do too. I call it cover candy.
It's the girl underwater with just like the fabric flowing over her and stuff.
So pretty.
But it's totally YA, not NA. No
yeah,
nipples.
I thought it was NA. No?
Nope, it's YA.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
but anyway, the thing is that the day before those nominations came out, not even, I'd been getting a lot of feedback from people that were like, well, your covers are cool, but maybe you should put a face on because it's YA and it's romance and it doesn't really say that, even though, you know, the couple are basically holding hands, and we were deliberate in that choice because we didn't necessarily want that to be the only thing. And we were talking about it, and then it got nominated, and it just kind of felt like bad juju. And I think we kind of came to the conclusion that actually we still loved Clicks, and we just needed to tweak the other cover, and that worked much better.
It did work out.
But, you know, I think that there is an idea that covers should have people, especially romance novels should have people. They should have faces. They should or shouldn't be almost kissing or this, that, and the other. So what do you guys say to that? And what are some of the successful covers that you've seen that don't do that? How do they pull it off?
That are specifically romance, or
Yeah, like, well, because I think most of our audience, you know, there's a romantic element to their story. So,
yeah. Um,
I'm trying to think of
I don't.
like romance covers without people, like NA. I mean NA covers without people.
well, I mean, I have silhouettes, but like without the traditional,
Hey.
the faces, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. I know. Well, no, I guess
I
that
think
would be adults.
I'm fairly certain this is way, but NA, but I might be wrong. But Beautiful Disaster has the butterfly in the jar,
That's
Yeah.
NA. Yep.
Definitely an A.
and I'm romance, baby.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
And actually, the Cami Garcia, the new ones, is that NA or? Well, anyway, can we get some suggestions from Twitter?
I
Please.
don't tend to do romance. I do spec fic mostly, so.
So
I'm
what are the
at a
covers
loss.
that you guys are designing for people right now? Like, Regina, what are people asking for?
Oh man. I'm getting a lot of requests for, you know, photo shoots specifically, but I haven't done a almost kissing shoot, you know, the standard contemporary ones for a while now, actually. So it's mostly. Give me a second.
No problem.
We have knocking.
I can hear that. We have a visitor.
Yes.
Hey, EJ.
Yeah.
What are we hearing on Twitter? What kind of covers
So,
are people talking about?
we had a really great tweet just a second ago from Jocelyn Adams. She says, for me, it's we're talking about what. So I asked Twitter, what's sexy, like, but not naked people. And so we got some common things, but she mentioned, she says, for me, it's all in the eyes and body language. I'd rather have clothes on with a powerful expression. And I think the body language thing sort of plays into what Kat was saying about, you know, how you can convey things through like silhouettes and whatnot, some attraction or whatever.
Yeah.
I have asked Twitter about like if they've seen any covers that, you know, aren't. Let's see, KK Hendon points to, she says cough, so I'm assuming this is her cover. It says OTGDY. Is that KK's? Is that initial? I think she's being modest. I think it's her book actually, but she has apparently a romance book that's out.
Yeah, is that the one with the redhead on the cover from the back?
I think so, potentially.
Oh, that's her. Oh, that would be Only the Good Die Young, right?
Yes.
I forget what the cover of that one looks like. I apologize.
But basically, I asked, you know, what romance, NA romances have you seen that do not have, you know, models on the cover, basically, and she pointed that out.
No model, like no people at all?
Yeah, like no people.
I can name one.
And that
which
was
we just discussed about 5 minutes
ago. Beautiful Disaster, right? I know there are others. Is it Colleen? Doesn't Colleen Hoover have a few out?
Colleen Hoover's newest one doesn't have people on the cover.
Right.
It's like letters with details on the inside.
And when we get Regina back, like I'd like Kat and Regina's perspectives on.
I'm back.
I've seen more of that. Like I see more, especially, you know, when Colleen Hoover's throwing out covers that don't feature models, then to me, my ears perk up. I'm like, hey, that might become a trend as opposed to just somebody doing it randomly, you know, kind of thing. Like she's probably not doing it without purpose. And then again, she may be so huge that she does whatever the hell she wants. But which I might do actually if I were in that situation, so I could sympathize. But anyway, so I wanted to get you guys' perspective on that. Or do we see things sort of with NA where people are experimenting now?
Oh yeah, like I was saying before I got interrupted, was I'm seeing a lot of people starting to shy away from, you know, the typical, because it's becoming a lot. So you'll see different effects, like, you know, the image behind the typography work, or, you know, more shapes and silhouettes and things like that are a lot of typography run covers as well. So that's what I'm seeing anyway.
Well, I just finally went onto the new adult list on Amazon, and
That's exactly what I'm doing right
well,
now.
I'm having this conversation, and I usually try to be very 100% focused on just, like, I close everything on my computer for NA Lit Chat, but I was having a hard time coming up with, like, what I wanted to talk about, so I apologize. I promise not to get distracted by actual books. But, Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, we were just talking about, it's #1 on the new adult list at the moment. And it doesn't have a person. It's just the text. It's some bubbles. It's pretty cool. It's got a recognizable graphic, but it's not. It's definitely not people at all. And we've got Jamie Maguire's Beautiful Oblivion, which is the peacock feather. And we were also talking about Beautiful Disaster, which is the butterfly wing.
In the new adult fantasy, because that's the only other category that new adult is in. There's trees, lots of trees, text, a city, a sword, and then people. So it's like classic fantasy book cover images and kind of what I'd say paranormal bent.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no, at least in the top page, no naked people chests. On any of these book covers.
We've got naked people chests starting at #9 in just the plain old new adult and college list, with Death Layer, The Depraved Club by Celia Lauren. And I think we need to keep in mind that not always are all these books like in the right categories, but they are what they are.
3 pages in on the fantasy list, and there is no naked people. So I'm not sure if that's a trend specifically for fantasy or if it's the entire age category moving in a new direction.
Interesting.
But
what do you think about that, Regina?
Yep, I was looking at covers too.
So do you think that there's actually a trend that's moving away?
From people?
Yeah. Or is it just like it just happens to be what we're seeing at the moment?
No, I think it's a trend moving forward. People are trying to become more creative. Because like with everything, the trend was 2 people almost kissing. And now, the trend is probably going to move towards, cleaner, maybe more typography oriented designs, more what's the word I'm looking for?
Two lips actually.
High concept design.
Yeah, iconic kind of. I think is where people are headed.
Yeah, I actually I don't buy books that look like that have that high concept. Like they just don't attract me. So maybe it's not so much that the entire readership, but we're seeing new readers entering into the, hey, what's this new adult thing?
So one thing I want to throw out from Twitter, Miss Dalai Lama just posted. She said, or posted a minute ago. She says, I think, because I asked the question earlier about YA, and how similar or dissimilar are YA and NA covers, all those kinds of things. And she says that she thinks that there's much more variety in YA covers, and lately they're much more illustration and font heavy than new adult. And when I heard Regina say that a while ago, that maybe we're NA's trending. So is NA following in the footsteps of YA? I think we are sort of thematically, if you look at sort of how NA has transitioned from the last 3 years as far as just an overall, I would say transitioning from a genre to a category where we've got all these things under NA now. It's not just one type of new adult. So is that what we're destined to do as NA? Like we're going to kind of watch what YA does and go there?
I don't know.
I think so, and I honestly think it's just going to be with maybe a sexier edge or older looking people, rather than the famous young teenager in a dress for YA, you might find something like a little bit more sultry or low cut or a little bit more
Explicit.
skin. Yeah, a little bit more skin showing. And then you get the, the ornamental design going on, and I mean, if we're specifically talking for the different genres within NA.
Well, looking, there are a couple images that I feel like, besides the male chest, or that are iconic to new adult. I feel like the guy in the hoodie with like the partial face. I know Jay Conover does that. I'm looking right now, like Guarding His Heart by J.S. Cooper. There's a book called Rex that looks like that. I feel like that's been a big symbol for whatever reason. I'd love to not see more of those because I keep thinking it's the same book, even though the books themselves are very good. So what do you do when all of a sudden you find that your cover really does look like a lot of others? Is that a reason to rebrand, or is that when you go a little bit like on the ledge with the font to try to make yours look distinct? How do you handle that? Or how would you advise a client if that happened? Because ideas are out there. It's not like copying as much as it's just we all get inspired by, certain things.
That's true. I for one, if I'm going to use stock that is similar to, someone else's cover, or maybe the stock image has been used before, I obviously tell the client that, this is a pretty popular image. Can we look, more, or, if they, I shouldn't say she, because I don't have just she clients, if they are persistent, I usually tend to take the image, and instead of just using the image as it is, I creatively, through cropping or different design elements, then you change it up a little bit, so it's not just the same image or same look. It's got a different spin on it, and of course typography does help as well.
Well, we had that with Jelly Bean Kisses. We were completely done on the cover. It was perfect. I loved it. And then I went to an event and I sort of showed a preview of it to somebody whose opinion I trust, and she was like, "Oh, that's the same picture that was on, I think it was an Alyssa Rose Ivy cover." And I love Alyssa. I love her books. And that was like the last thing that I wanted to do. And you were very responsive. We changed it. I have to say, like, I love the new image that we picked as well, but that was hard to accept when you're like, "Hey, but I love this. Do I really have to?" And that thought only went through my head for 5 seconds, because I felt like, well, yes, of course I have to. It's important, for both parties. But not everybody does that or wants to do it or knows in time. I mean, if I hadn't shown it to that one person at a random event just to say, "Hey, look what I have, shiny new. I haven't even done anything with it yet," I would have never known.
Right.
Yeah, I have the added benefit of all of my covers are painted over. Like, none of my stuff is as is it I bought it, so I run less of a risk of having somebody have the same cover as me, unless they literally take the image.
So, Amy, you're totally being called out by ST, and Ole even made an appearance. Apparently he's wearing a hoodie in one of ST's covers.
Oh, yeah.
You've offended a very real fictional god.
Yay. I needed some better.
So I
needed some drama in my life this week.
NA has a rep of being edgy, right? Like, that's kind of, if you talk a lot about NA, like, that's what a lot of that defines it. That next sort of level of edge to things.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about hoodies socially and the whole thing that happened with the Martin, instance and all that kind of thing with the hoodies and how that became a huge symbol of, I'm seeing it in TV shows even, like Arrow, like one of the characters, like the Arrow himself wears a hoodie, one of the other side characters wears a hoodie. It's sort of this whole,
I don't know if I consider that a hoodie so much as like one of those wide, like, Irish hoods.
Right. I mean, they call him the Hood, but like the little dude, the other guy, like, wears a hoodie for sure. He's like a red sweatshirt hoodie. And it's become sort of this whole counterculture thing. And So maybe that's an idea for people out there, you know, dreaming up ideas for new covers or whatever. Just kind of take a look socially at what's trending as far as, you know, being counterculture types of things, and maybe that's what you go for. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm seeing the covers that are appealing to me lately. I was just looking on Amazon, and I really like. There's an Eric Davis book that's in pre-orders right now. I don't even know who that is, but it was on the NA list called Tunnel Vision. It's got a really cool looking. I'm gonna send you the link, EJ. I'll post it in our chat so that you can share it. I've seen a couple like comic booky, designy covers coming out over the past couple weeks that have caught my eye.
Oh.
Go ahead.
My next series that I'm working on is going to have entirely illustrated covers, so they kind of look like a painterly manga style. Like,
Cool,
I've already decided that because it fits in with the theme of the book series. So I do agree that we're moving towards a more illustrative and creative text treatment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just picking a piece of stock art, making it black and white, and then slapping on the same font everyone else is using is not going to cut it anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's way too much out there to compare it to.
The cover that you just did for Inger Iverson, Regina, that's one of my recent favorites.
Incarcerated?
Yeah, that was really, really, that draws you in.
Thank you. Yeah, that was last minute inspired.
Well, so how do you guys do that when you're rolling through and somebody tells you that they want something different, but they still need to communicate with readers to what the book's about? I think one of the reasons that people are really starting to veer away from these like half-naked torsos is because we have a lot of people who are writing new adult that's a little bit different than what we've seen that's been really popular lately. And so they're trying to communicate the idea that this is new adult in context, in age, consequences, all the important things that make new adult interesting, but not necessarily with the same level of heat that perhaps we've seen in the past. I know Cora Carmack's recent releases, you know, they're not at all half naked. They're more, you know, it's like kind of cute and dressed in on a football field. And we have a lot of authors who have been like apologetic for the amount of heat in their books, and they're finding maybe trying to find a cover that communicates new adult without the overt sexualization of it might draw in, like you guys were saying, different people. How do you find that balance? What would you advise?
Not putting naked people on your cover if it's not
really sexual.
Yeah. Like, there's this cover, I don't know what genre or what age category this book is, but it's called Dreams of Gods and Monsters. And it's a girl through what looks like a forest, but then you realize they're like elk horns. And she looks dangerous and edgy, but she's not naked, it's just her face. But it has that edgy new adult edge to it without being explicit. You know, it still conveys that it's maybe a thriller, probably spec fic, probably new adult. You know, so there are lots of things you can do that, you know.
Yeah, I think, you know, the more sexual your book is, the more sexual you can play on with the cover. You know, the less sexual it is, or, you know, depending on how, it really, there's a huge scale. So you have, like, you know, on the edge of, you know, adult or erotica, and then you have on the, you know, the lighter scale where you have, you know, they're college age, but here, let me give you an example. College age, Megan Squires, they're two people kissing, just got picked up by Amazon. The Rules of Regret. The Rules of Regret. That's a new adult book, but it's on the softer end of things. You know, it's really light. There's a nice, you know, sunset going on, some architectural overlays and stuff. And then you've got something that I just did. The cover's not even released yet. It will be soon, where there's, half-naked guys. You can get away with it a little bit better. But it's a little bit grungy. It talks about some really explicit things, like sex slavery and stuff like that. So it's just
So
all
that's
depends
a
on
good
scale.
red flag then. Like, this is going to have some more more adult content, and it's going to be racier, and you should want that or stay away.
Yeah. I think the cover that we did for that project, Amy, that's not released yet.
No, we need to plan the cover reveal for that. Quickly.
Yeah. I think that was a good compromise in the wide spectrum of raciness that the collective titles had. I think it conveys, that it could be sweet while still being fun.
Right.
So we're having
there's
a
no naked
conversation
people
on Twitter that I want to get all of your input on. So I asked the question, who defines cover trends, readers or authors? And we're getting a lot of different feedback. Somebody, Chris Fox, says it's a combination. It's the culture that defines it over the course of several years. But somebody, let's see if I can bring it up here. Serena Bowen says bestsellers because they are copied. And so I think that's an instance very much where publishers or authors, and I mentioned in the indie age because I think it's kind of a different world of publishing than it was 10 years ago. But before it was all publishers, they, could sort of do whatever, and we had no clue what the process was. But now people kind of do. But I think there is this process of like a bestseller. I mean, you look at what, 50 Shades and Twilight, and people's big bestsellers started having object covers. And I don't think that was driven by reader demand. I don't think readers were like, ooh, I'd really love it, if this was just an object cover or whatever.
Definitely not. Like, there are lots of books where if I didn't already know the story, I would have not picked them up based on their cover. The Hunger Games series, I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of those covers. But
I'm in agreement. I wouldn't pick up. I'm not a big iconic person. I tend to gravitate towards people. I always have, even before getting into cover design.
Yeah.
I gravitate towards people because I feel like I can relate to that. I wouldn't pick up an iconic cover.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it's recommended, like The Hunger Games or Twilight.
Yeah, it's not something I'd walk by in the store and go, hey, what's this about? But it's one of those
I do
things...
appreciate the design, but I wouldn't pick it up.
Yeah. Whereas the way that they've done it for like the movie posters, it's still an icon, but it's just much more interestingly executed. So that's another thing I look for when designing covers is I look to other media, movies, TV shows, comics.
But how do you walk that line of sort of as designers? Like, how do you walk that line of sort of saying, we know what readers' expectations are with this stuff, but we're going to give them something that's going to blow their mind and it's going to change their expectations. So, like, it's going to be something that, how do you walk that line as designers? Like, when maybe you get a project that you're super excited about and you go to the author and you're like, I have this crazy idea, but I think it's going to be awesome. But it's not like anything else.
I actually have a project like that coming up. I haven't started it, but it's in my head. I just... it depends on the client. Some people, have a very specific idea, and some others are like, okay, here's my story, run with it. And so I have a project on my task list right now where I don't think I've ever seen anything like what I'm going to do done before, but I think it'll be so visually impactful by the audience that it'll be received well. At least in my mind, I think it will be.
I think that
just taking a chance.
No, I'm trying to think of whose symbolic covers I really like that I think you did are H.D. Gordon.
Yeah, I've done hers. Yep.
But I think it's interesting because when she released it as a box set, she did use a girl.
Yep.
So I think, like, I'm sure she has her reasons for just, for doing that. And I think I don't know, it's always sort of interesting to me. I feel like we're seeing a lot of backs in covers. I know Elizabeth Sharp has a couple reflection covers, and Heather Lyons, who just did the cover reveal for the Collector Society, which is so good. And that's a girl's back. She's looking at the city. I will share the image with you guys because it's really pretty.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool new trend that's a little bit less, I don't know if this is NA or not. So.
The box set for my Mark Twain series will have to have a male bare back on the back, or as the cover, because of the fact that the series name refers to a specific mark on somebody, and I need to show it. And it's been really hard to find a not sexually explicit
back
guy. Yes, just a guy who doesn't look like he could bench press my car with a bare back, because the boy character that it is not a Herculean
heavyweight lifter.
Yeah, no, he is a slight Asian boy.
He's not sweating his butt off,
No, it's just
sexy.
Because of where the placement of the marked one's mark is on their back between their shoulder blades. So it needs to actually show that. And I might end up just having to paint the cover as opposed to using stock like the other ones because I can't find what I'm looking for.
You should.
And I'm a terrible photographer.
Talk to me. I think I could help you out, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so you guys obviously, Regina, someday you'll probably write a book about all us crazy people who drive you crazy. But you guys both have serious skills. Kat, you write, and you are an illustrator and a designer, and Regina, you are a photographer as well as a designer. What do you recommend people do, if it's their first book, maybe they don't have a budget for much of anything beyond a single stock image, or, they really just need a DIY cover. What kind of tips could you give for people who have NA books and hardly any money? I know we all want covers to be as professional as possible. We all want everybody's work to look fantastic because it elevates a category. But realistically, there are people who have released books that they've covered themselves, and some of them do really, really well, and some of them are like clean and simple and good. And what are some tips that you would give as guidance for people that need to do that?
Make sure your font is legible.
Yeah.
When your image is only about an inch big,
yeah,
because that's how you're going to see it online. YouTube is your friend. If you're using a particular program and you don't know how to do something, but you really want to know how to do it to make your cover look awesome, there's a YouTube video for it. I can guarantee you that.
There is. I would say, if you, like Kat said, just, if you don't know what you're doing and you're getting frustrated by the process, the most important thing, I think, is to take a step back and don't try and overdo it. Try to do some research on your genre, your category, where you're going to be placed, and then if you can, just go for simple and straightforward, because if you try and overcomplicate things, you're probably going to end up with something that isn't going to help you in the long run, and then you've frustrated yourself, and it's not going to be worth it. But yeah, YouTube is definitely going to help you guide your way through a program, at least to get you to the end. And of course, there's designers out there, artists who might be willing to critique it or give you helpful tips to improve it or whatever. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to help.
Yeah, and there are lots of great stock places that offer very reasonable covers, like reasonable stock images for covers.
Yeah, there's a lot of pre-made covers out there. The one place
There's also lots of great places to get free for-use fonts. The thing with that, though, is you have to make sure that it says that you can use it commercially, because they don't all say that.
Right.
Yeah, when you download images too, go for 300 DPI.
Yes.
Yeah, if you plan on printing or doing any kind of promotional products.
I think you need that. I mean, even I think with Amazon,
yeah, it's still even like it's still going to end up being the size that you need for the Amazon cover. And it's, usually not that much more. Like usually the stock sites have them in a variety of different sizes. Just make sure you know what size you need, because you can't return it and get a bigger size later. You just have to buy it again. I have done that before. It is not fun.
I've seen there are some new design sites out there that are never going to be able to replace the skills of somebody like Kat or Regina, but I know I'm a big Canva fan. I know people use like PicMonkey and Pixlr, and
I don't know of any of these.
I don't know. I've heard of PicMonkey, but people ask me like how to use it, and I'm like, it seems like the simpler it is, the harder for me to use.
I'm sure it doesn't translate to Photoshop at all, because I've tried, but Canva is very easy, and it has basically a lot of pre-made layouts, and they actually have a Kindle section, so you can go in there. And you can see 14 to 25 different designs, and then they also have stock photography that you can have in there.
And I'll chime in with Pixlr, pixlr.com, I believe. It's fantastic. I mean, there are 3 versions of it. One of them's like nearly a full Photoshop. It's freeware, so you just type it in your web browser and jump to it. And then they have a Pixlr, this more of a quick thing, so it does but it's pretty robust. You can do a lot of fun things with it, and I use combos of that and just to create, blog buttons and things like that. But I use combos of that in Photoshop. But yeah, I mean, you can do it all through Pixlr. They have a full Photoshop app that you can do, and that's all free.
Yeah, and Canva again, like they actually have layouts, which the Pixlr, you kind of have to come up with your own layout, but Canva, you could be like, kind of like what Regina said, if you want to find a way to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
They have suggestions of fonts that are already paired, and they also do sell stock in there. So you really can.
Pinterest and
Pinterest
YouTube.
Pinterest is the best thing ever.
Ever made. Seriously, you can find
anything
you want. I mean, even down to YouTube videos. Anything. Research is your friend. Researching, you can't go into the world blind. So do some research, and you'll be happy you did.
Like what was it the other day? I didn't know how to do Bokeh, the little out of focus dot thing. I just looked up a video on how to do it on YouTube at like 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Worked out great.
I was just in there for iMovie the other day.
I have not even turned that on our Mac.
Well,
I just taught myself this year, so.
So we've got I've heard some good anecdotal stories from authors who have had books that got good reviews but not a lot of attention, and lo and behold, maybe they invested some of the early profits to update the covers, or maybe they already had what was supposed to be a kick-butt cover, but it just wasn't working for them, and they hired out to change it up, and miracles happen. Can you guys give us any insight on when it might be time to reinvest in a new cover, and why that might provide some, visual magic that captures a new audience for your stories? Regina, I know you had some good anecdotes about that.
Yeah, I've had one. I've had 2 very good success stories. Kristen Iverson, Inger Iverson, her Angels series is an example that when we redid her covers, her sales jumped. So she was getting good reviews, but it just wasn't, I don't think, as visually impactful, especially when it came to the typography work. It was kind of hard to read, so even I couldn't read it from like a thumbnail. And when we redid that, I made sure that from a far distance or from a thumbnail, you'll be able to read that. And things did wonders for her, and that's one of my success stories.
So she basically, and I've seen a lot of covers. I'm always amazed. I'm like, that might be a pretty picture, but I can't read what it says.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So that's one reason maybe people aren't
really,
picking your book.
Yeah, it's really a huge deal when if the image itself isn't enough to stand out. So if it's not enticing enough. So if it's just kind of flat, there's not enough balance going on, or it looks cluttered, that could be a problem. If you can't read it, that could be a problem. But let's say, for example, I've had an image itself, not necessarily the typography, stand out to me. I'll click on the cover, or vice versa. So if I can't really read what the title is, but the image itself is enough to draw me in, I'll take Kat's example of something Gods and Monsters. You can't read the whole title from a thumbnail.
No.
You can read Gods and Monsters, but the most enticing thing for me is the look on that girl's face.
Yes, exactly. I don't have any super success stories, but I know I've changed the cover of my fourth book. My first book four times. This is the fourth cover.
I just wanted to throw out from Twitter, ST Bende says, ST's on our chat crew, by the way. She says, y'all lost me at Techno Savvy and Aesthetic Eye. She says she bows to the designers. And so I definitely wanted to take a second to give a shout out to Kat and Regina and people like Carrie Butler. We have a bunch of designers that are sort of connected to our NA Lit Chat group. Reach out to them. I don't know, prices vary, whatever, but there are people out there that can help you, because if you have no clue, sometimes you can get things done more easily than trying to tackle it yourself. Your time is definitely worth money at some point. So
yeah, I also do all of the internal design for both e and print. So if you have your file's broken, you don't know why, you can come ask me. I'll answer your questions. It's usually pretty simple. There's usually a stray piece of code somewhere that's making your whole thing break. Hello?
Very cool. Sorry, we're on a delay, I think.
I think everyone is approachable.
Oh yeah.
It may seem daunting and scary, especially if it's your first book, and you kind of have no idea where the heck you're going or who to talk to. Just reach out to a fellow author or a friend, or do some research, look for reviews, check out testimonials. Those things are super helpful, and everyone's, from what I've learned, is everyone's very helpful when it comes to covers.
Well, and I think the thing that I've learned is don't be afraid to change your cover. I think Lee Talbot Moore had agreed that changing your cover can be really exciting. You can use it as a promotional event. You can build a blog tour around it. I know Heather Hildenbrand has said the same thing. There's an opportunity with this sometimes to really use it to maybe, if you're going to try it out, really try it out. Don't be, oh my gosh, I have to change my cover. Be like, I have this amazing new cover for this book, and I want you all to see it and share it and love it as much as I do, because this is you moving forward with, your work and trying to reach more people. And changing the cover is, it's a great thing. So I think that can be a little intimidating for people as well. And I've also gotten some people who have offered the advice to experiment with teasers. If you're not sure if your cover's working, try out some teasers that might look different from your cover. Maybe you want people kissing. Maybe you want, my book is a lot of surfing. There's no surfers on the covers. There's barely waves. Maybe a surf picture might, I'm not changing my cover, we've already had this conversation, but that giving people a surf picture might draw in a new audience, and maybe that's something to think about. I know, who did we have? LG Kelso last week was talking about her cover is stunningly beautiful, and it's boxing, and it's very sexy, but it definitely looks a little bit, I think it's more sexy than boxing, so we talked about with her, like, maybe trying a few more, like, more sporty pictures and teasers to see if people, you know, there's so much room for experimentation, and I think it's all positive if you look at it like a chance to try stuff out. There's no reason to stress about it when we all do have these opportunities, which I think is great, because, you know, 5 years ago even, forget it. You got a cover, that was the end of the road, unless you got a movie deal, in which case then they slap the actors on there.
Right.
Yep.
And
and you can use cover images in creative ways for promos too. Like, I have a city shot from each of my covers, and I use those for backgrounds for promos and all kinds of other things. So there are lots of things that you can do with the assets you've already acquired as well.
Very cool. Regina, any last parting words of advice? Because we ran over. We started a couple minutes late, so we went a couple minutes late.
Yeah, I was just tagging off what you said, as far as changing the covers. As audiences grow, and, this whole revolution of self-publishing is growing, changing your covers from 5 years ago might give you that extra spin that you're looking for, the audience that wasn't there before. So, anything is possible. And if you have the intuitive feeling that it should change, then you're probably right.
All right. I think that is the best advice that we can leave with, and I would just reiterate, like, make it a positive thing. Don't spread. Covers are like the most fun part of books to me. Of course, I don't design them; you guys do. But it's always really an exciting process.
It is an exciting process. It's so fun to take words and create images. That is a very fun thing to do.
So, thank you guys both for coming on and talking to us tonight. I think we're sort of learning that the cover conversations, we really need to be prepared with visuals. But I know EJ's been sharing a lot, and Twitter was super active tonight. And hopefully, I know you guys gave a lot of good tips, and it's been fabulous. I'm really excited to see the newest crop of NA covers, and I'm excited to see where people take them, because it looks like things are definitely growing and changing. Thank you, Regina Wamba from May I Design, and Alicia Cat Vansel, who you guys know as part of our production staff, but she is also an amazing interior designer and cover designer. And thank you, EJ, wherever you landed, our fearless leader. Oh, there he is.
Hey!
Thank you, and thank you guys all for listening and tweeting and joining us tonight. This is Amy Evans. We've had NA Lit Chat, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.